critical locations that are related to critical infrastructure. So there is a chance that they could put something there that would be defined by the FAA as critical infrastructure. But they're pretty far from the current RC park, and it's pretty unlikely that any of those uses will impact, unmanned aircraft. So based on that, if the council chooses, we could push back and I don't know how we would go back to the county commission and say, put this back on your agenda. But you could reconsider your motion today, which is allowed under your rules, your bylaws, and remove that as a condition of approval. And then we could go back to the county commission and have them go ahead with their approval. But that's certainly up to you. If you have any questions that I can take back to the commission, I'd be happy to do that. But that's the current status of that agreement at this point.
Based on your understanding, would a delay of 3 months make any difference?
I think that I would have to defer to Jeremy and Mark on that.
If you understand what I'm asking.
For the road construction?
No.
Oh,
not to the road construction, to
meant
whether or not it would be approved by the county.
whether they would change their position if you waited 3 months. But yeah, we are in desperate need of that road so that we can get it built. D.R. Horton has indicated that they're eminently about to move forward on that portion, and we're backing on that. Whether the commission would change their position if we stalled for 3 months, I can't speculate on that.
All right, but our need is greater.
Yes.
Okay.
Another thing to consider. So you can reconsider a motion in a regular meeting. You can't in a special meeting unless it's the same council members are present.
So you move to reconsider.
So you'd move to reconsider the previous condition of your motion. And remember, I don't think that there's any adversely affected parties by this. So I think it would be okay for you to do that from a due process standpoint. Another thing I wanted to mention is, remember the RC park is a non-conforming grandfathered use, and it would continue as such under land use law. So I think that's an additional protection for the city.
So if a council member was not here, can they vote on the reconsideration?
Because I wasn't here for the original.
Should probably, I would recommend abstaining from that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem, do you want a motion?
So, go ahead.
So I move to reconsider the approval, I don't even know what to call it.
The conditions.
The conditions of this item, it's not on here.
Two, it is, isn't it? No, that's the other one.
That's not,
Do you want me to read the exact, I can read.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, just a minute. Let me find, I've got it right here on my list of things. I've just got to open it up now.
If you could sound just like Councilman Karn too, when you say it.
very authoritative.
I don't know about that, but
Doesn't know about you sounding authoritative.
I have.
Weasley.
Oh, yes.
Kevin, we have it over here.
Kale has it.
I have it too, so either way. The business item, it was business item number 2, Utah County General Plan Amendment, Rezone, and Interlocal Agreement, and the accompanying ordinance. I don't have the condition of the motion though, Kayla.
I've got it right here.
Okay. You got it in your brain?
Yep.
Okay.
So I move to reconsider business item 2 from the previous meeting being discussed, removing the condition of restricting the
You have to
airspace.
vote to reconsider. Make a motion, don't you? You can't. Don't we have to vote to reconsider and then change it?
That's an interesting question. Maybe you can make it, I think you can make it all in one motion.
On one, so
Keep going.
all right, so my motion is to reconsider the approval and remove the condition to restrict the airspace over the county property.
Okay. I'll second.
Any discussion?
I will be voting, I'll be abstaining as I was not here for the original motion.
Okay, Councilman Karn?
All right,
Porter?
All right.
I'm sorry, I thought we would have some discussion on that. That wasn't the precise condition. If we can have some,
The
go ahead, Kayla.
motion was that any future construction doesn't impact the use of the RC.
so my motion is to that condition.
Do we have an amended second? Any more discussion? You sure?
Last chance.
Karn?
Aye.
Porter?
Aye.
Wilden, aye. Podeska?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. We're still on department reports. That was a long department report.
All right.
Administration report.
No, we're not even department reports.
No, we're not even there yet. We got a ways to go. A couple quick items. I'll try and go quickly through them. First, the mayor has been contacted by an individual recently wanting to consider a proclamation for Constitution Week, and the week is September 17th through the 23rd. The mayor would like to adopt this proclamation. He realized we got it only this morning, so we missed the deadline for this meeting. He asked if I would please find out from the council if you'd be willing to do a special Zoom meeting where we could get the notice in place and just adopt this proclamation recognizing Constitution Week.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. We realize there's some scheduling, challenges, but we'll work on that. Thank you. The
There's only
next,
3 of us, so.
yeah. The
No
next-
sewer updates, Mark, on that meeting.
Going to the next item then, since there's no, actually, I was just going to give a quick update. The real rough preliminary numbers from August billing cycle this year compared to August billing cycle last year, it looks like citywide, we were able to reduce usage about 14%. Now, that number we think would be higher because we've added so many homes in the last year. It's showing a higher number, but on a per user account, it looks like it's lower. So we feel like the measures that we put in place this year for drought reduction were successful. As a
Do you
continuation,
know what the per user drop was?
do I know what?
Do we know what the per user or per account reduction average?
We talked about some concept numbers. It looked like, the city's usage was way down. It looked like even the schools did really well. Residents' usage was way down. Some of the other categories was a little bit flatter. But because there's some big users, it kind of kept the percentages.
Did
where
you
they were.
compare just July to August?
I don't have the details on that. I got a real brief summary, and it just looks like that. We will definitely get that for you once we get a chance to refine that. But again, early indications show that we were able to see a pretty significant reduction. And water bills are out, and the utility billing clerks, they haven't been receiving many calls. So we're quite pleased with where that's at.
The good marketing campaign.
Yeah. The next meeting, or the next item, it's along that, we do have Jacob's Ranch well up and running. It's running at full capacity, so we're super excited about that. The challenge that we have is we will be learning September 13th what's going to happen with the canal companies, and the irrigation users are going to be meeting Wednesday evening next week. And we believe at that time they will make definitive decisions that would reduce the irrigation season. So we're precariously still in that position of not being able to give a go, no-go on what to do with water. As soon as I get that information, we'll update you either Tuesday night or Wednesday as soon as we've got that information.
If the canal companies turn off, do we still feel like we can maintain our 80% through the end of our
do.
season?
Yes, we do. We believe that with Jacob's well up, we believe that we could meet that 80% allotment. But ideally, we would love to get out of that reduced allotment rate, but we just can't guarantee it.
So are you saying that if the canal companies stay on for some reason,
If they
we may be able to adjust our percentage?
Potentially, yes. We think, and the rumor and the speculation is right now, is that somewhere between the 13th and the 30th, they're going to shut the canals off, which is early for irrigation season.
Well, I think my feeling is if we can get through October 15th at the 80, we're going to be good.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So this is not a warning necessarily to say we're not going to be able to continue the season through the end of our October 15th usual irrigation season. Rather, we're going to be at the reduced rate is our expectation based on that meeting. So again, in theory, if they say, hey, we're going to irrigate through the end, or, through October, then the council does have an option to reduce that, or to go back to 90% allotments or more. But again, that's speculation at this point. We expect that it's going to be shut down.
Can we get some type of update on the uptick of new users on the water portal? and the number of people who have transitioned to e-billing or e-statements? Because we've been making a big push on that.
Yeah, and anecdotally, I can tell you that we had a huge number of people that in the last few months have signed up for the water portal.
Good.
I don't have an exact number, but I do know that it's significant. Probably doubling the amount of users is my guess right now.
Doubled?
Yeah, a few
awesome.
thousand.
I
But
signed up 2 weeks ago.
So I know that it's gone up. As far as that, what was the second question?
I'm just curious how many people have moved to
Paperless.
the paperless statements? Because one of the comments I've received a lot is, hey, I signed up for that years ago, but I still receive a paper statement in the mail. So we're stopping sending those unless
Yes.
specifically say I want a paper statement.
Yeah, there was basically a checkbox in the system that was still making those be sent, even though they were sent. They
They
had
were
signed
getting
up.
them email and paper.
Right,
years.
and that's why we delayed implementing the charge for paper, because we had to sort that out. So that if they still are, please reach out to utility billing so we can make sure. But
Okay.
from what staff that's worked on this has reported back to me is that they were able to sort that out, and they should not still be getting both.
Starting October.
Should have been already. So if they're still getting it, they need to reach out to utility billing.
I don't know if I got one or not.
So.
It comes from the
I
city.
did. I got
So
the
I had-
flyer thing.
I had two other items real quickly. First, Mayor Council, we request that we table business item number 6, selection of motor scooter service provider. We still have not received a positive confirmation from, the potentially successful bidder as to whether they're still willing to move forward with that. And until we've got that, there's no real rush. So ask that you table that, and appreciate Ken and his efforts in trying to get that proposal wrapped up. The last item, just as a quick update for you as a council, on Thursday from 11:30 to 1 o'clock, we're going to be doing our employee tailgate. You may notice our employees have the option of being more casual this week, so people wearing, team jerseys, colors, whatever. But we'd invite you to swing by Thursday, Patriot Park, sometime between 11:30 and 1. It could be a grab and go. We're going to have some J-Dogs for our employees. But if you want to swing by, visit, grab a hot dog, it can be grab and go, or you can sit and visit with people if you're,
If we did not RSVP, we could still come by.
we got you taken
All
care
right.
of.
But you can't have a J.
I did RSVP. I didn't sign up for the portal, but I RSVP.
Owen doesn't need his J-Dog, so we'll be fine. So Mayor Pro Tem and Council, that's all the items I have. Thanks for your patience.
Closed session tonight.
We do have a need for a closed session
All
tonight.
right.
Getting ahead of yourself. I should turn your microphone off.
It's on.
Next, we have department quarterly reports. I know the materials were in the packet. Is there anything we need to cover there?
Nope.
Okay, hearing none, we'll move to the consent items. Any items that need to be discussed there, or we can move?
Motion to approve the consent items 1 through 4 as listed on the agenda
Second.
We have a first and second. Any more discussion?
with any staff findings and conditions.
Adding staff findings and conditions. Wilden, aye. McComber,
Aye.
Podeska,
Aye.
Porter,
Aye.
Karn.
All right.
Consent items pass unanimously. We'll move on to business item 1, argument in favor of the issuance and sale of the city's general obligation bond, Series 2022, in a principal amount of not more than $70 million.
Mayor, Council, thanks. I'll jump on this. Kevin can tag team it with me. Essentially, we are required to submit an affirmative argument for these items for the general election. Staff and the bond council helped us draft both of these items. The first one is we tried to write it as neutral as possible. There is one correction from the packet that we do need to make. On that first item, sorry, I'm pulling it up. It says, if you go down,
Which one is this? Brick Center, okay.
yeah, this one is for the bond. In the packet, it reads,
It's the wrap tax.
sorry, it's the wrap tax one. This one is fine, I apologize. We tried to draft that as neutral as possible. Again, you don't need to take action on this item. We merely wanted to give it to you in case you had any corrections or changes that you wanted to make formally to either of these arguments. This one is pretty, pretty straightforward. The other one, we mirrored some of the affirmative statements that have been made in other communities when they've put these items up for ballot approval. So we mirrored that. The item 2, if I could just speak to both of them at once. Item 2, the second paragraph, and it's the last, or it's the second to the last sentence in the last paragraph. It says, we have approximately 50 acres of undeveloped land waiting for funding to be acquired. That is not correct. It says, it should read, waiting for funding to be developed. And so acquired is incorrect. It should be to be developed is what that language should say. And so really, other than that, if you have changes on any of these things, we're certainly happy to make those corrections. And again, we appreciate your time on this, but again, no formal action is taken out. We just wanted to make sure you needed, if there's any changes that needed to be made.
And just another thing as well on the wrap tax argument, it actually refers to the bonds. That should be corrected to refer to the wrap tax. And it's not a public meeting, it's a public hearing. So both of those are statements that were added by bond counsel last minute. But as I reviewed that today, I realized they made an error on that.
Where is this?
I didn't.
So the very last paragraph where it says,
I see.
yeah, city shall conduct a public meeting. Should be hearing.
Approval of the tax or instead of issuance of the bonds.
Right. So both arguments, it says public meeting should be a public hearing.
Oh, okay.
And on the wrap tax, it says the purpose of the meeting is to hear arguments for and against the issuance of the bonds, when it should say for or against, implementation of the wrap tax.
Okay. Well, I guess staff can just make those changes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but another thing too is you are required as a council to submit an argument for this proposition. That's, the statute states that. Now, as far as arguments against, we did get a notice today that someone is going to submit arguments against this. The city recorder, in reviewing that, if there's anything that's not factual, that could possibly be modified if it's just purely argumentative and it's not factual. The city recorder has that ability per the statute to change that, to make it factual information. You also, as a council, well, yeah, as I mentioned, you do have to submit an argument for it. So you can modify this, but you would have to, by motion,
So we do have to
the
vote on
arguments
it.
for.
Because it's not listed as an action item.
Well, the reason why you would have to is because it does say the legislative body shall submit an argument for. So as a legislative body, you can't act unless you do it by motion. So,
Okay.
Mayor, council, I apologize. I was not clear with somebody discussed that, and I was not aware of that, so thank you.
So we'll go ahead and start, Councilman Porter, and then we'll go through the list.
I just had one syntactical change to the general obligation bond. The first sentence in the second paragraph, the second clause where it says however, in order, that however is not needed. It's kind of confusing. Because usually you'd use however if you're then contradicting what you said in the first clause, and so we just need to remove however.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councilman Karn?
On business item 1, depending on what comes in as an argument against, I would like to have the city, if that doesn't work, issue a statement of neutral to negative on that action item with similar arguments in opposition, if the submitted one doesn't work.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay, Councilman Pedestrian?
On business item 1, line 6, after multi-purpose rooms, could we have, just drew a blank. Programming, senior programming added to that list?
Senior programming?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
List of uses?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Councilman McComber?
So I have a question on the argument in favor of recreation. It does not refer to them as being natural hot spring soaking pools. Was that done intentionally?
No.
Because I think that that is an important fact that's a lot of people are considering. As I've talked to probably about 30 people, maybe 40 people, that's a big point for them, is that the outdoor heated, it'd be outdoor natural hot spring soaking pools.
Okay.
And, you know, I get the whole energy trying to geothermal power it, but those soaking pools, I think we need to be clear that those would be natural hot springs.
Two different things for sure.
Yeah, and that just wasn't clear because it just says outdoor heated soaking pools, and that could be
Okay.
electric heated, right?
Yeah.
And then I think that, I feel like that was a really good neutral statement that we're following the state legislature requirements to do a argument in favor and that we shall do that. Kevin, I would like to Councilmember Carn's comment about doing an argument against. What is the requirement from the state? If that's something that we're required to do. If we're not required to do it, then I would be hesitant because then it looks like we're not as neutral because we're doing things beyond what the state is requiring. So the only reason why we did this is because the state says that we shall do it.
So
The statute is silent on whether the legislative body, governing body submits arguments against.
So my personal thing is
And-
that I wouldn't want that then, because it
Okay.
would come across, for me, again, I'm one of five, then it would come across as we're not neutral.
So our financial advisor, actually, I was talking with him maybe 2 weeks ago, last week, and he suggested that, like, if someone sent something in that was just like, for lack of a better word, just, you know, a rant, an emotional rant or something like that, he said sometimes cities will present a negative, but so that it gets more in line with facts as opposed to just, you know, not a focused argument, if you would, negative argument. And so fundamentally, I think
But negative arguments have to be vetted for accuracy. They can't be emotional. They can't be just, you're gonna bankrupt me. You're gonna make me lose my house. You can't put that on a ballot.
So the way that Jonathan from Zions Bank described this to me is sometimes if that's what comes in, the city will then prepare a response or a negative neutral response, and then it becomes the election judges or Cindy's responsibility to select which of the arguments that would then go forward as a negative argument. So if let's say we received half a dozen negative positions, Cindy would have the ability to kind of choose that. And so that was the suggestion that the financial advisor had recommended, just in case there was, you know, and again, we'll see what comes in, but
Has anything been submitted yet?
no, just their intent to submit.
But we haven't received anything yet.
The 9th at 5.
Of September 9th. Okay. And then on business item 2, libraries, are they able to use funding from RAP for libraries?
No.
Even the,
Civic library tax.
You could use it.
I thought, but they do a lot of arts projects within the library.
So yes, arts, if it's within those categories, yes, and they're
Well,
all
then
cultural.
I think that we should have something around the library, arts, and activities programs, because I think it's important that people understand, because I do know for a fact that Lehigh uses a good portion of their money for their library arts, and then they even have all their plays, the Arts Council, they have.
Wasn't Lehigh's proposed as a parks-only tax? Well,
No, but
that's
it was-
how- that was on their.
named it the park tax.
They named it the park tax, but they can use it anywhere they can use it.
So this doesn't, the
recreation.
titling here doesn't restrict any of the legal use for that.
Yeah.
And so there's no restriction on how you use it so long as it meets the statutory code
Okay.
that's there for this.
So yeah, and then how it's worded, just that meets that or whatever. I just want to make sure that people understand that, because there's a lot of passion and enjoyment around our libraries, arts, and activities. and that would definitely be able to expand those programs. And then the only other thing I think that might be of value is the current and past leaders have shown great foresight, blah, blah, blah. The city has approximately 50 acres of undeveloped land waiting for funding. I think a lot of people think it's just the land because they've heard a lot about the purchase around Patriot Park. But I think maybe we say something like the city has approximately 50 acres located throughout the city, you know, something like that, because we have a big amount of acres that's set apart down south. We have the central, the North Marina, even land in Wildflower, and that. So
are you looking to maybe, so we could broaden that and say, you know, the city has
approximately 50 acres.
multiple recreation sites waiting to be developed.
Throughout the city.
Throughout the city with additional funding.
Something like that. Just the word throughout the city, I think, is important because I don't want people thinking that it's all just going to.
Can we bring up a Word version of this, and so we don't have to try to wordsmith it in a motion?
And then,
This has to be done by Friday.
I know, so that's why.
We have to vote on it
now.
and then my other, while we're working on pulling that up, and the other thing besides that is the cemetery. A lot of cities refer to their cemeteries as parks.
So
Great there.
again,
And it's grass, and it's sitting, and it's got trees, and it's watered.
yes, so theoretically, yes, like the trails surrounding it. Again, this doesn't limit anything.
I just want to help people understand, though, like, again, I'm very much in favor. I'm not being neutral on this one. I'm playing a neutral card. I've played it very neutral with anyone I've talked to about the rec center. But the RAP tax, I'm tired of paying Lehigh's and American Forks and not getting them to pay ours. So I'm using it very strongly. I just want to help make sure that we're very clear when people get this, that this is even potentially in and around the cemetery. I just want to make sure that people are looking at this going, wow, this is potential parks in my backyard, the cemetery, the library activities programs.
So I agree with you on, again, broadening the language to cover all of the parks citywide, I think gets you there. I am a little hesitant about saying, you know, funding construction of cemetery because I don't want people to interpret that. I'm not entirely clear as to whether we could do it for any, I mean, some of the park space, yes, for sure. You know, potentially some of the pavilions and other things, those I think would all qualify. But I think we need to be very careful as to not imply that, you know, the plots that would be ultimately sold. Right.
So then, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But then I also want to then, as a council, I'm only one of 5, but I think I can talk at least one other person into bringing, I want maybe a public-private partnership on the cemetery. If we can't count it as a park and we can't use funding, then I would love to see a company come in and actually run it, bring the sexton, not have it be an employee. They're much better at it than we would ever be.
So we're actually, the park components of it, absolutely, yeah. But like the plots themselves, since people will be paying for those costs, we just need to be careful.
They're not paying for the surface, they're actually paying for underground. That's very key.
Right.
Most cities are very clear that they're not paying for the surface. They're only paying for the space underneath that surface, and you can walk across that.
Correct.
There's no barrier or fence keeping you from walking across it.
And to that end, we are continuing with our study on the cemetery. We're hoping to have some additional information, some concept drafts. We met with a designer of cemeteries recently. And so we'll be bringing that back to you in the coming months, probably closer to December. We just
As
got
part of that, bringing it back, I would love to see the cost benefits of a public-private partnership where a private entity that understands how to run these things is very effective. Salt Lake, the most effective cemeteries in Salt Lake County are public-private partnerships. There's very few fully public cemeteries that I'm impressed with.
Right.
So
again, that will be kind of its own thing, so we'll bring that back to you. Okay. As far as tonight, are you comfortable if we use the broad language that talks about, you know, park facilities throughout the city? Does that get you where you need to be? And I don't have
that and the senior activities, I think, were the 2 big ones.
Yeah, I definitely, senior programming, yeah.
And changing the thing at the bottom.
Right.
So
So this is the RAP tax one.
Tax.
So the sentence, the city has approximately 50 acres throughout the city
Undeveloped land throughout the city.
Throughout 50 acres throughout the city of undeveloped land, waiting for funding to be improved for recreation and park facilities. That works.
So this sentence is proposed to be changed. The city has multiple park facilities throughout the city waiting to be developed.
And I'm okay with what.
like that better.
Yep.
Yeah, I think you need to redline it, yeah.
So which version of the sentence am I going for? Because I just.
Mark, do it again.
Strike the whole sentence and have it say, the city has multiple parks throughout the city of, multiple undeveloped parks throughout the city waiting for funding to be developed.
This is why I wanted to hold it up. Trying to remember this.
I forgot.
It turned into another Karn motion.
Glad you're playing with
Get that right?
Yeah, that looks good.
Okay, and then the other sentence on this, Owen, that we need to change.
The very last paragraph has to be fixed.
Um,
No, keep going.
They want to add senior planning or senior programming.
That's to the general obligation one.
That's for the Geo one.
Kevin,
Yeah.
could you put the general obligation?
Because the rec center is going to have senior plan.
Hold on, we gotta fix the last
Let me get the
paragraph.
Geo
I
one
thought
too.
you wanted to have it
so.
Scroll
Owen,
down.
funded by the RAP.
Scroll down that one. That paragraph has to be fixed. Public hearing,
Public hearing and then issuance of the bonds.
issuance of the tax,
Or implementation
Tax.
of the tax.
issue of the tax. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Yep.
And then on the general obligation bond,
Sorry, we were going to do on the wrap, we were going to say something about library activity. Recreation, arts, and parks are valued aspects of the daily experience. Each provides opportunities for children, individuals, families, and seniors to build relationships and other population. Recreation and
Still
arts
thinking.
programming,
Those
opportunities
arts-
in recreation and arts programming.
Arts fall in the library, because that's,
Okay, I'm okay with that. But what about, I mean, the argument may be, is senior programming allowed in the wrap?
so
Senior activities?
if it's recreation related and/or arts related, I would say there's no question, and even cultural. I mean, we don't include that language in here,
Like our
but it's
civic
part of the
events.
statute. Cultural things could be included in that, so.
Like an
you know,
art festival, civic events, all that.
all of those things are going to fall into that category, and again, what we tried to do was leave as much discretion to the council as allowed by the statute without limiting it.
I would love to see some specifics, like potential, arts festivals.
the problem is if we start listing specifics, we could go forever.
Yeah,
Well,
but
and,
just,
and all of a sudden somebody's like, well, it said in this thing that we approved that you were going to give me
well, you just use the word may.
sculpture gardens.
You just said may. Just everything in here says may now. It may, even the rec center says may include
Right.
basketball courts. But I don't know. You guys, if we're wanting to pass the wrap tax, listing out some of these things is going to help because you want to hit the button of someone, if they're an arts person, if they're a recreation person, if they're a sports person.
Yeah.
Just,
We mirrored language from similar communities, and again, we
did
weren't
those
sure.
ones pass or not?
They did, and as a council, or as staff, we weren't quite sure how enthusiastic you wanted us to be with kind of listing stuff, so we tried to keep it
Well, because
somewhat.
Lehigh's didn't pass.
If it's too long, people aren't going to read it.
Lehigh's didn't pass the first time. What did they do wrong?
Right.
And what can we do to learn from that? Because Lehigh's wrap tax didn't pass the first time. They had to do it a second time, and then it passed.
This is the one that passed, right?
Was it smarter to
believe
say
so.
recreation, and should we just focus on recreation? Because they took a lot of that, our arts and stuff, out of their description. Because,
I'm fine leaving the arts.
I'm
and
comfortable how.
but I'm just saying, like, we need to learn from other people because the art of persuasion, the art of argument and negotiation is to list the things that are going to trigger the most emotion from people.
Well, to that point, this is basically pulled from Lehigh's successful.
Okay.
So if
So this was Lehigh's, the wording was generally Lehigh's
I
success.
believe so, yep.
We started out that way, but we made some changes to it just to fit our situation better, but, yeah, we're changing it a little bit.
Okay, well, I'm not getting any other support, so we'll just leave it as is, but it'll just be more work for me. I just have to go out and argue the points, but I'll do that.
Where would we add this?
So we gotta look at the Geo bond too.
And no, I'm referring to the wrap tax. Is there a section that this would fit in?
it just, it says opportunities in recreation and arts programming, it just seems a little bit vague.
How about recreation, comma,
Senior programming, maybe?
cultural, cultural,
Recreation, arts, cultural events, senior programming, because we do not have the facilities for that.
well, again, I want to be careful because you can fund elements of senior programming. We don't want to create an expectation that it's going to fund, say, Meals on Wheels or something like that, which wouldn't be an eligible recreation, arts, parks, type kind of thing.
I think you could just say something may include, da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, it's common to see residents denied
I
opportunities.
see the more specifics we put in here, the more gotchas we have.
You're just creating.
That's fine, leave it out, I'll just do the work on my own, but who's the people who vote in Saratoga Springs? People over 55, and we don't even mention really senior.
I'm fine putting that in. He mentioned putting it in, and he told me that was the wrong one.
I'm in support of adding senior.
I was trying to find like if there's any specifics about what this is allowed for, and it's very broad. It says recreational, zoological facilities, botanical, culturals. So it's really broad. I mean, any of that could be defined as cultural, really.
So in the top paragraph, we do say families and seniors to build relationship communities as well as spur creative health, well-being. And would you want to say
there because you're saying seniors aren't a family, basically.
Well, do you want to add, programming or something like that with this, or senior programming? Each provides opportunities for children, individuals, families.
Compatible elements?
Or an art, recreation, arts, and
Okay.
I see that sentence, that's in cultural events, maybe. Yeah,
That's fine.
I like that.
Okay.
And then you have the may, which is also state protects us.
Are we getting it closer?
No, I'm fine now. Yeah.
Okay.
It's covering all the things that I want.
Anything else? I guess,
Not in this one. Go back to
which one?
The
the
geobond.
number one.
I think we're done with this one.
Well, maybe I can make my general comments on this.
Oh.
I'm turning your microphone off. It's not coming back on. I think this is well done. There we go. We'll go.
I'm so glad you waited.
So much value.
Karn's microphone is now off.
So are we back to the general obligation?
Yeah.
I can't see it. I'm hoping you can.
Got this, the natural hot spring.
He did, and he got the senior programming in there.
Oh, and the senior program.
Yep.
So second paragraph, there's that, yep.
You got rid of the however, he's got that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
fix the last paragraph.
Oh, public hearing.
Public hearing.
I think that one's good then.
Well, while you're writing that, just in general, I think staff, you did a really good job keeping a neutral argument in favor of the general obligation bond. I agree with Councilman McComber, unless there's something crazy that comes out in a negative against argument, I'm not really in favor of crafting our own because it's above and beyond what the state has required. I would prefer that we stay neutral and very specific with the state law on this. Because I don't want to be viewed as pushing it one way or another.
We understand that. And again, it was a recommendation of the financial advisor because of some of the things they've seen in past. But again,
Let's see what comes.
if it's workable, we'll go with that.
What's our time frame if it wasn't super workable and I mean, it passed, but we felt like as a city, we need to put something slightly different.
What's our deadline?
So the deadline is the same as the voter information pamphlet, and I can't recall, but it's within a certain number of days before the election.
So the
Those have
9th
to
is the
get-
deadline for submittals, and then we still have like a week or two.
Yeah, the city recorder can look at that and correct any error that's not entirely factual. So another thing too, you as individual council members, nothing in the law, including the Political Activities of Public Entities Act, prohibits you from, in your individual capacity, from submitting arguments for or against. You just have to do it in your individual capacity as a council,
As a resident.
basically as a resident.
So if somebody
But today-
submits against, does their name?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
there's no
But-
anonymity on it.
Yeah, today is the deadline for submitting the notice, and then the 9th is the deadline for submitting the actual argument.
But, and I guess my preference is, we probably should at least look at it, and if it barely passes, but it's marginally factual, then I think we should consider looking at it. But otherwise, if nothing's submitted or it's just plain vanilla, I don't think we need to respond to it. That's my preference.
Okay. Fantastic. Again, per Kevin's instructions, we'd be looking then for a motion to business items 1 and 2. If you've got any additional changes, we're happy to make those.
So made as with the outlined changes that are documented during the meeting.
We have a first
I'll second.
Thank you. First and second for both business items 1 and 2. Any more discussion? Councilman,
I'm still in favor of the city doing a negative discussion. I know I'd lose on that vote, so.
okay. Councilman Porter,
Voting? Aye.
Karn,
Aye.
Podeska,
Aye.
McComber.
Aye.
Wilden, aye. Motion passes unanimously. We'll now move on to business item 3, Jordan Promenade, ordinance 22-35 dated today.
Evening. Is this on? Good evening, Mayor, Pro Tem, and Council. Let's see, I don't know if this is on. Sarah, will you start the slideshow? There we go. So what you have before you tonight is Wander Village 3. This is the final phase or final village of the Wander Community Plan. This is, as you can see, the northeastern portion of the community. It is 842 ERUs, over 161 acres with a 41-acre park, or it's a 40-acre park approximately. Meeting houses, a couple meeting houses, and a school site along with amenities. So this is their lotting plan. As you could see in the packet, they have a lot of townhomes. This is where the majority of their townhomes reside. A lot of that is because of the access to the park and the open space. They do have cluster homes and single-family detached homes as well. The open space, like I said, you can see the Jordan River Park, or Riverside Park. And sorry, it is one meeting house, a school site, and a business park or commercial area.
2 commercial areas.
Three commercial areas. You have one on Pioneer Crossing and Riverside Drive, and then the 2 parcels, the 2 areas over south next to Saratoga Road. So these are just some of the open space concepts. You have the Jordan River, the Riverside Park with parking and other amenities. You have gathering spaces. They have a pool and pool house. And then the trail obviously is a big proponent of this. Here's the pedestrian plan going from, and it does meet the community plan, which is the view corridors to the river. And then with that, staff recommends approval. Questions? I'm sure you have lots of them.
We normally have the applicant come, right?
Oh, yes.
So,
Greg Paley with
if
Oakwood
you'd like
Homes
to
is
come
here.
up and state your name and general address.
Homes, 206 East Winchester, Murray.
Oh, do you have anything to add before council discussion?
Well, I did want to give a little update what we're doing in Village 1. Just, it's been a while since we've spoke with council. So we just recently, last week, opened our pool house and rec center. in Village 1. It was a big hit, just in time for the heat. Residents may say it was a little overdue, but we got it done this summer. And currently, we are building on one of our lots in Village 1, the first St. Jude house in the state of Utah. So we'll build it, and we're getting a lot of the materials donated, and all the proceeds, net some of the costs, will go to St. Jude Hospital to fight childhood cancer. And then we're excited about Village 3. It includes some new collections for us, big park, and opportunity to have the school there as well. So we're looking forward to getting started on that.
Great, thank you. Councilman McCombs.
Hi, thank you. Couple questions. First for staff. With the school site, has the school done their testing of the dirt and grounds? Because my concern is schools are much heavier than an individual house.
Right.
And the most expensive school ever built in this Alpine School District, more than any high school, was the elementary school in Lehigh because of the proximity to the lake.
Yeah. So they have purchased the site. That we did a subdivision exception for them to purchase that property, but they have not submitted anything yet. So that would come in with a subdivision.
They purchased that
right?
without checking this.
Well, I don't know if they did or not. I mean, I would hope so. Hopefully they learned their lesson from Lehigh.
If I can speak diplomatically for Gina, it's their decision.
Yes, it is, but I just, it's so expensive. So when we were originally, so we did the original bigger development, master development agreement, we talked a lot about this trail corridor that runs basically from Patriot Park all the way to Pioneer Crossing. There was talk of this would be a great place for a future arts festival. Scott talked about having sculptures and sitting areas and shaded areas and like bronze sculptures along the way. Typically those things get forgotten. It's one of the reasons why I think it's good for city council members to be on for a while, because you can remember the things that are promised. Heaven only knew that Oakwood Homes would build their entire 1,000, whatever it was, how many acres was this total?
Lots
of acres in 3 years, 4 years. I mean, literally going to build. Yeah, but in 3.5 years. But are we losing all of that, or because right now all I'm seeing is just trails. I don't really even see a lot of. I see some trees that are going to be little 1-inch sticks that aren't going to be shaded. No one's going to want to sit along here. I don't see any like arbors or.
Yeah, so a lot of that's going to be done these are just a few of the renditions. I don't know if you looked at the village plan concept. There's going to be benches and so forth. Those aren't details that are necessarily along in here, but I do understand.
Yeah, but a bench in 104-degree heat with nothing covering it, and it'll take 15 years for those trees to even be anywhere decent.
Those finer details are,
level.
Somewhat, yes.
This should be the village plan. I don't see the details, and that's my big concern here. Is all I'm seeing is a bunch of cement, and it better be cement. If it comes in as asphalt, I'm making you rip it out.
Can't.
Well, they can't. They did.
I take that
they
back.
Did,
Sorry.
And
yes,
we
you're
gave
absolutely
them a
right.
waiver because we were generous. But
absolutely,
don't do it again.
Point taken.
But I mean, I see, gathering space, Nobody's going to gather in these spaces. I mean, this is extremely.
Yeah.
It'll be extremely hot. And so we were just promised a lot of things when they got all of these rights to multifamily housing. They're basically sticking all their multifamily housing along the Jordan River, which I get. They're going for their densities. It's sad to think that we're putting all of the multifamily housing. I like what we did more along Redwood Road, where we had houses and then the duplexes that look like houses blocking the multifamily. So when you're on Redwood, ideally we would have built those houses first because everyone saw the multifamily housing going in and got mad, and then the houses came in, and so now people are forgetting that there's a lot of multifamily in there. And so I just don't want us to lose that. And so for me, I'm uncomfortable approving the village plan. This is the last time we see this, you guys, because now it goes to staff. We gave up all of our rights after this. With our new table, we said, okay, after village plan, planning department has it from here and then they just basically push everything through. And so I just get really concerned when I don't have that level of detail.
And that's what
Councilmember
this said.
McComber, if I could, there is an item, condition number 7, which is any additional conditions articulated by the city council. This could be an excellent spot for you to establish what you want as a condition relative to the park design and the park layout.
I would like to get the park design. Not just, I mean,
Yeah.
you can show me past, but that's not the park design, right? That's not showing me, where's any play equipment even? Like,
Bring in a.
Right.
yeah, because I don't even see any kind of play equipment. Like, I mean, you have all these townhomes, but like, what are they going to play on?
So would you like to add a condition 7 that would require them to bring the parks plan back to you for your
A
approval?
detailed parks plan, yeah. That would be
So-
great. And then
so
we bring it back for our review, and I'm even okay with staff looking at it and saying, okay, this is what meant the intent of council and everything. Sure. But if you're at all concerned that it's not what we were promised, then bring it back, because
And if I could, I appreciate, I appreciate that. We'd much rather just have you put
Yeah,
a condition that says we'll bring it back for
because
it.
again, this is representing what, 1.5 miles of our waterfront. You guys, I mean, we spent a ton of money and a ton of time doing our waterfront. And now all of a sudden we're just like, here's some little green circles where trees might go and some flowers and a cement. Yeah. So then my other thing is on the commercial, it just says commercial. This isn't regional commercial, is it?
No,
Says
it's, well,
neighborhood?
it's community commercial.
So I would like to have that labeled as community commercial, because when people see commercial, to me, that just it screams more regional.
Gray, kind of.
And it
Because that's your color coding, but
It-
on our color coding, that's industrial.
industrial.
Oh, okay.
So again, just I think that's really important. Also, Ken, I never saw, or maybe I missed it. Did we bring back the entrance corridor overlay? Have we had that? Because we worked on that, but then I never saw it come in.
Yeah, we are still working on that. There were some additional concerns in other sections of the code that needed tied into that, so that is still scheduled to come forward.
But we never did a pending ordinance thing, so this commercial is not going to have to, this commercial, which is at the very entrance to the city, is just going to be able to be whatever meets community commercial.
Well, whether it's considered pending commercial or not, there is an application officially submitted. I don't know, maybe that's.
No, there is not. The application is right now. This village is now where they're showing that this is commercial.
I'm talking about the ordinance amendment that would create the gateway.
Our application,
The city has.
do we have that?
Sorry to interrupt. This one's in the district area plan. So it wouldn't be under that new ordinance. It would be under the district area plan unless we did a rezone. So what we're
So, but
planning,
real quick, they've moved schools around, they've moved churches around. So doesn't that reopen it and allow us to then say you now need to follow? Because they're wanting, I don't get why they can move everything around, but then we can't enforce a entrance code.
Need to be unmuted, please. Yeah, instead of trying to resolve it tonight, we could definitely look at that. These are what would be attorneys consider, conflicts of laws that we get geeked up about. But
Okay.
I would have to look at the district area plan, the community. It's not that much fun, actually. It sounds like a lot of fun, it's really not.
Okay,
We'd have
so
to look
there's
at
condition 8.
We'd have to look at the DAP, the community plan,
Okay,
and also the proposed ordinance that's coming forward and see how that all interrelates.
condition 8.
In Utah, we're an early vesting state, so when the application is filed, a complete application that meets all existing standards and application fees are paid, that's when an application vests. I don't know when this was submitted.
Okay.
It might have been before we even talked about the,
It was submitted
It's been 3 years ago.
almost a year ago that this was submitted, and
So
they've been
even-
working on it.
even
This
if we
village
had
one,
passed
yeah.
that ordinance that you asked Ken to, this would still be vested under that law, but
Okay, well then let's make sure we dot every I, cross every T. Four-side
Right.
architecture, it looks decent when they put a gas station right there. That's what's going to go there.
And I think one thing, because this is you can make a condition that whatever, and Kevin, correct me if wrong,
Yes,
that you
so-
can make a condition that they follow that overlay zone when, because right now they specify the uses for that community commercial in their community plan and village plan. So if you're wanting additional conditions on that particular property for a city entrance type commercial, then I would recommend you putting that into a condition.
And remember, you're also governed by the community plan. So what the community plan says is allowed to go in the village plan would be allowed. You've already made the community plan decision. But at the village plan stage, you do still have discretion. That's why this is an ordinance and it's a legislative decision. As long as it meets within the tier, you know, the DAP, the community plan, if it falls in line.
Well, I would rather put it in
I'll
there, and
say,
then if it
okay.
doesn't, you can always take it out, because I'd rather at least have the overlay if we can, and if it, for some reason, it's legally not allowed, I would love to add that. And even with all the commercial, I'm not sure if that was commercial on the community, maybe it was.
It is.
Okay.
And
The
another
commercial on the
option-
right, the far right was commercial too?
The far right, I don't remember, but they have amended their community plan to include this.
Right.
Another thing you can consider, Councilmember McComber, you could actually table that portion of the decision so we can research it, and you could say, we're concerned with these types of uses on that commercial portion of it, and we can research it and come back and answer that question. But the community plan is a very lengthy document, and I don't think we could answer that on the spot tonight.
Yeah, I just would like to at least be able to put the entrance corridor overlay, because what's the point really? I mean, there's only one other entrance to the city that's in the very south that hasn't been built yet.
For item number 8, you could add, a request that the entrance corridor plan be implemented in conjunction with the commercial areas or something like that. And so there's a lot of law that needs to get looked at.
Yeah, and I don't think Scott would have really a problem, but he's going to sell this.
Actually, I believe the church is retaining the commercial parcels. Is that correct? Or
That's correct.
so it's really going to fall under the SLR.
Oh, so it's even worse. Okay.
Definitely going to push the issue.
No, so it's even worse, because they're going to want whatever they can to create the value as much as they possibly can, because as cheap as they possibly can do it, because the for-profit arm of the church is really ethical.
Well, I would suggest we just put a condition on it where it has to.
Oh my gosh.
Well, the thing is, right now, we don't know what that future code's going to say. I mean, it could change. It's really speculative at this point. What I would say is list the things that you're concerned with. We'll review the community plan to see if those are things that we can restrict with this village plan, and we'll come back with so you can make another
So a
motion.
condition, I think we put it as a condition 8, like how Mark outlined. My last thing is, if you can pull up the pedestrian routes.
Sure.
Because I'm not going to do this again, you guys. I'm so tired of having everyone blame us that we don't look at safe walking routes. This little pink line at the top, that's your safe walking route for the school?
No, that's the Jordan River Trail.
Right, so this is the pedestrian walking trail. So pedestrian walking trail would also be kids walking to school. How are the kids getting
So right of way.
from the south side of Pony Express, how are they going to get to this school?
That is a good question.
The blue lines are the sidewalks, the dashed blue lines.
So,
But how
yeah,
are they getting across Pony Express?
So Pony Express, they would have to cross at the roundabout, since we're not going to do any mid-block crossings.
Right.
So at the roundabout is where that would be the safe crossing zone for students.
And that's where the crossing guard would be,
That's where the crossing guard would likely need to be.
So
in the
River-
middle of the
right.
roundabout. Because most cities do them about 100 feet before the roundabout, and they stop that, and then that's where and then the roundabout flows and it stops. Where like the train would be at Lehigh, where they have the train.
So to that end, we would need to be careful, because mid-block crossings would require like all kinds of other things. So again, until the safe walking route is instigated by the school and by their coordinating council, and then we work with them to find the best possible solution. So
I get that, Mark, but they don't work with us. We approve these developments, and then all of a sudden we have parents saying that we want to kill kids on the news. And I'm tired of it, because we don't talk about it here.
Correct.
So we don't have any way, this school site is going to be taking the majority of the kids from the south side are going to be attending this school, and I want either in writing from the school board that they're going to bus the kids across Pony Express, or I want to know what their safe walking route is before I approve this village plan. I will vote no today. I know I'm only one of 5, but I am tired of approving these things without safe walking routes for these schools.
So, again, I understand and I share your concern. We have many of these conversations with the principals. So we are very empathetic to the concerns.
The principal is actually very concerned. He actually brought it up on our principal meeting about how the kids are going to get across Pony Express. He was very concerned about that.
Yeah, so Jeremy?
Yeah, I was going to mention that the is it Springside on the south side?
Springside is in Legacy Farms.
Right. So he was the one that has been
Yeah,
concerned.
he's the one who's concerned about all these kids going there until this school gets built.
Better home. So
His question was actually how, when
Right.
we build this phase, how are these kids walking to Springside?
Right, because this school won't be built for 4 or 5 years.
So we discussed the roundabout would be the safe crossing route. If you look at the MUTCD, whether you put a crossing guard at a roundabout, I believe is a community decision. It's
Well, we would absolutely have to. Pony Express would have to.
because there's no homes built this school year, there was not a need to address that this school year because there are no homes currently occupied north of Pony, but we discussed in that community meeting that this was going to be a hot topic next school year, and that it's very likely that there may need to be a crossing guard for that roundabout, but the roundabout would be the crossing.
The Aspen Hills Elementary School, do they cross at the roundabout? Do we have, or do we have a mid-block? Riverside.
There is a crossing guard, I believe, on Aspen Hills, right?
On Aspen Hills, but not at the roundabout.
Not at the roundabout, that is
The
correct.
roundabout is not a safe, because there is a raised pedestrian crossing in front of the school, the roundabout is not identified as a crossing from north to south. The roundabout is not part of the safe walking route.
Right, and it's very difficult. You have to cross guard 2 different sides to it.
So theoretically, and this is where this gets just crazy, theoretically, the safest place for these kids to cross wouldn't even be at the roundabout. It would be on Redwood Road at the pedestrian crosswalk. Redwood Road and Pony. That would be the theoretical best spot to cross because it's a lit intersection, it stops all movement, and it's the best. From a distance standpoint, you then have to start factoring in distance and other things. So again, we will be happy to start working with trying to plan for this. What we don't know is where the school is going to say, okay, if you live on this street, you're going to go south to Springside, and if you're going to go live north of here, you're going to go to this school. So we will reach out to the school and we will start working on that. Again, I'm not sure that we can independently.
I just feel like we're always putting the cart before the horse. We approve these plans and we don't have these kinds of conversations prior. We're so worried about where the sewer lines and the water lines, all important things, but one of the most important things is keeping our kids safe, and we discuss that after everything's built, after we build over on 8th West Foothill Boulevard, and we have kids walking on dirt and crossing the middle of the street because they don't want to walk up to Pony Express, and then we have kids from Talus Ridge that are walking on a sidewalk that's 4 feet from cars going very fast until they see the sign and they slow down. Because just so you know, like, they don't have the school zone is 200 feet of walking on the sidewalk before the cars have to slow down for the safe zone, for where the crossing guard is. So they're already flying past the entrance to Talus Ridge. Chris probably actually knows this. I actually saw it for the first time. People are flying and then they all throw on their brakes and they've passed, 100 kids walking on that sidewalk, which is just inches away from them. So I just don't want us to create the same problems over and over again because that is the sign of insanity and poor planning, and we are not that. We are a very well thought out city, very well planned, but I just feel like the safe walking routes has not been one that has been thought out and discussed. So for me, I don't know how I'll end up voting tonight, but most likely it will be no until I actually feel comfortable that we've actually thought through this and we have good, clear direction. And I don't feel like we have good, clear direction on a few things on this. I give my time back to the Mayor Pro Tem.
The biggest unknown, obviously, is what the school district is going to do with their boundaries. We don't know the answer.
Councilman Pedestrian?
Just quick question on the Jordan River Trail. What was the kind of the design choices behind having it not follow the river along to the south? To have it just cut straight to Pony?
You're saying between the houses and commercial?
No, between the commercial and the river.
And all the way
Yeah.
up to basically our park.
Because we have a pedestrian bridge that goes across the river right there.
Pedestrian bridge, they're waiting to
Yeah.
use.
So Councilman, if I may, the design there is intended to line up with the connection to the Jordan River Trail on the other side of Pony that already exists. So they'll be abutting one another there.
But as far as like going behind the commercial,
Behind the
so
commer-
it's still next to the river? So it's more of a river walk and not going out to a busy street to connect?
Well, I think, first of all, that design, I believe we explored that before I came on with the company.
Okay.
Realigned here, I believe, put from staff, but I can say that that's the wettest part of the site there. So if we're going to tuck that trail behind behind what shows as the commercial right there, it's marshy. You may end up in like you might not have cement. I know that would upset Councilman McComber. It might be something like a boardwalk condition or something like that because it's very marshy in there.
Okay.
Actually, it should follow the river because we have a bridge, a pedestrian bridge we installed.
Waiting to use.
To connect to it right there, so then this provides no connection.
Well, and the light green means that it's not as marshy as the dark green.
And that is another thing, if you look at the code, 1925-03, says the developer shall construct the shoreline trail, is referring to the Jordan and Utah Lake Trail, as close to the waterway as reasonably possible in order for the public to enjoy the diverse ecosystem and natural resources of the area. Now, I don't know how this interrelates with the community plan. We'd have to check that, but it's another concern that we can look into before you approve this village plan.
That was passed long before.
Yeah, my preference would to see to have that follow, just like it does on the.
Condition 10.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, I don't believe there were, I want to say, I didn't do this original review. I've taken it over, but I don't believe the commercial areas on the south were there. And the trail, because of those commercial areas, that's why the trail got moved over.
Want to make more money.
Yeah, it has
Always been commercial?
Yeah.
I will have to research it.
It was once on the other side of the road, but then when we moved
Okay.
the road, it's basically stayed
Yeah.
in the same spot.
Okay.
Well, then they can put a trail right on the commercial part where they're feeling that they're going to put asphalt. They can put a trail and then they can put their asphalt.
We can get answers to those questions.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that as a condition.
Sure.
Because it's actually a benefit to the commercial buildings, is it allows people to walk to them, like teenagers in Harvest Hills all the time are walking to Walmart and Costco and all these things, and these will be much closer.
Yeah. It may have been told to me why that is, but
They do it.
I will find out.
Great. Yeah, those other things have already been said, so.
Good question, thanks.
Councilman Karn.
Not really.
You're good?
I'm good, yeah.
Councilman Porter.
I just wanted to, it took me a while looking through to make sure what I think it says. The allowable units in this village plan match the currently approved community plan, correct?
Correct.
Okay. There was just some red lines and stuff, and I was like, okay, so what's changing?
Yeah, so they asked for a density transfer, so there was a minor amendment as allowed by the community plan to transfer, I think, 2 or 3 units from Village 3 over to Village 2. So this is the bulk of those.
But it still meets.
But it still meets the community plan, correct? Absolutely.
And then, I mean, I share Councilman McComber's concerns about the walking routes. That is a huge issue. I'm just trying to understand from Kevin, you've recommended that we go back and look at some of these things. Are you asking us to continue this item until you have a chance to look at that, or just list a bunch of new conditions? I just want to know whether we're looking to move forward with this, or whether we want to get all of our stuff squared away before we look at this and approve it.
I'm not asking you to do anything that's within your discretion.
Wow, that was a great
As
attorney
a
answer.
council, I think the first thing is decide on what the consensus is, what the motion, I mean, any of you can make a motion and attach any conditions that you want, or you can make a motion to table it. Things are addressed. And then I think I could better answer that question. I think that it's hard to cobble together a conditional approval with so many conditions.
Right. That's kind of what I was.
It's really messy and difficult to staff to actually implement those conditions. So it's up to you though, really.
All right. You eventually got to where you answered what I was asking. All right. Go ahead. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yep.
So in summary, I'm hearing we want to look at the trail alignment, we want to look at commercial design standards. Right now, the document says they'll follow what's in Title 19 for neighborhood commercial. So if we're wanting anything additional, we would want to look at that more closely. And then we're wanting additional park information on amenities. Those are big items.
In addition to that,
The commercial, I think we want to
Intrude.
explore complying with the
Overlay.
gateway.
Yeah, and our gateway, and then the safe walking route. So our gateway standards, as Ken mentioned, are in a draft format right now. As we met, I know that some of you have reviewed it, as we met as staff, we wanted to incorporate that into the same format that we have in the code, and we had some other suggestions, so that's still in the draft format. However, because this is a village plan, and as Kevin mentioned, that code amendment's coming after this village plan was submitted, so there's but we can put it in here. But what I'm saying is we put something, or they can look at putting something like that in here into the design standards, and then it applies in the same way.
We'll look at making sure that we can do this for the current approvals, which in the vesting under the community plan.
Well,
The one thing I'd mention,
Asphalt give and the density give and the fact that we worked really hard to try and help them.
so one other thing too, Sarah, I think, did you mention the trail along the commercial area?
I did.
All right, that is one thing as
Those are a
well.
lot of big things.
well, is the mayor pro temp allowed to make a condition or a motion?
You are allowed to vote. Make a motion as the mayor pro tem.
Well, I think I have all the conditions here that address everything. Well, I can still make the motion, and then you can vote no. So I'll move that we approve business item 3 with all staff findings and conditions, adding condition 7, that the applicant return with an updated parks plan for council review and approval, adding condition 8, that we apply a gateway overlay to the commercial area, adding condition 9, that the trail is extended all the way up along the Jordan River as identified in code previously read by our city attorney, and adding condition 10, that the staff engage the applicant as well as the Alpine School District to identify interim and permanent safe walking routes. That's a first. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second. I have questions. I'm not answering them.
I'll second.
Second, and Councilman Carn.
Kevin, is condition 8 legal? Can we put
The
the
gateway.
gateway overlay on top of this?
Yeah, I think maybe we can get some clarification on that. I would feel
Because
more.
the gateway
comfortable-
zone's not even defined.
I'd be more comfortable if we can identify exactly what you don't want there and check the community plan. Again, I don't have the community plan memorized. I could pull it up, but I wouldn't be able to say, you're not comfortable with gas station on that commercial parcel. I think that was clear. We wouldn't be commercial with, like a sexual oriented business. We obviously.
Well, it's community commercial zone,
It doesn't
right?
allow that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, it wouldn't be allowed anyway. I'm just saying, I'm identifying the extremes. where we fall in the middle, where you're comfortable.
Yeah, my question is, how do we make a condition that says it has to follow the gateway zone? We haven't defined that.
That's why I brought up that concern after Mark mentioned that, because we don't have that even adopted. We've got it in draft format. You've never even looked at the draft. So right now, it's a staff idea.
Currently in this village plan, there, under the commercial section, there is a list of uses that are allowed in those commercial areas. So you can use that to say, no, we don't want these uses in this particular village plan, or, I mean, you can go that route,
They've deferred to Title 19 neighborhood commercial.
or you can defer to, yeah, you can
No,
do that.
that document already does. So the
Oh,
village.
does it? Okay,
for the
thank you.
use Architecture defers to Title 19.
For neighborhood commercial.
Right. So.
I thought there was a section
But
that
it's a very good
says-
question, because we're still in the works, and in our draft, there were some things that we can't ask for and can't impose. So, however, in a village plan, there are more things that you can ask for.
So would it make sense to modify condition 8 instead of a gateway overlay, to modify it that a list of items come back to the council that we identify?
Consistent with.
I don't know why you're saying consistent with.
You could say additional design standards for the neighborhood sites.
Okay, so I'll modify condition 8, removing gateway overlay to return, help me,
Additional design standards.
additional design standards for the commercial area for city council review and approval. Do we have
Amended second.
any other discussion?
Just that I think there's too much ambiguity. I appreciate the effort to craft a motion. There's too much ambiguity in these topics for me to be comfortable moving forward. So that will be reflected in my vote.
Okay, Councilman Carn?
No, I've said my piece here.
I
No,
think asking for your vote.
a vote.
Nay.
Porter?
Nay.
McComber?
Nay.
Podeska?
Aye.
Wilden, aye. Motion fails 3-2. Do we have another motion?
I move that we table
Continue the item.
or continue item, sorry, which, 3? Directing staff to address the issues that were brought up in the previous motion and bring back a
More cohesive.
more cohesive.
Additional
forward.
information.
There you go. Additional information
I
on those
second that.
topics.
We have a first and second. Any further discussion? Councilman Carn?
Aye.
Porter?
Aye.
Wilden, nay. McComber?
Aye.
Podeska?
Nay.
Motion passes 3-2. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move to business item 4, general plan update, city initiated citywide ordinance 22-36 dated today. And the presentation, we've seen it a number of times, so keep it very brief.
Yes, sir. So the version of the general plan draft that is in your packets includes a handful of text changes and clarifying edits. The clarifying edits provided to us from your city engineer and from your city attorney. In addition to those edits and clarifying changes, there were a handful of changes to the future land use map. We more narrowly represented the town center area. We focused the mixed-use commercial areas within the DAP to focus more on the nodes. And we changed one area from planned neighborhood to low-density residential. Those changes were made as a result of additional public input and discussion. Any questions?
Councilman McComber?
I just had, when I was reading through it, it just felt like it didn't feel like Saratoga Springs to me. The pictures, fine. A lot of the pictures were great, but the fact that the city's been in existence for 25 years, but you reference 20 years for the city, we're making a big deal. We even have our little coins that we're giving everyone saying 25 years. We had our big splash celebration, 25 years, and then we reference it as 20 years, the city's 20 years old. So it felt generic to me. The thing that I want to point out is that we spend a lot of money on these things and we get a lot of input from the community, and I feel like if we just did an auto replace of Saratoga Springs, that I would be rating any other city that is near water. And so I'm just a little bit frustrated with the overall feel. And I'm in a mood tonight, so you're going to get more of it from me today. Well, and like, perfect example, why are all the pictures of our city like this when our city's like this? So there's all these sideways pictures of our city where the words, our city runs like this, north to south. And so half the time in here, the city's running north to south. Half the time it's running east to west. It's very confusing. I think it doesn't, sorry, you're getting Owen the looks today because now Mark's gone. He was maybe stepped out, perfect timing, because I'd be looking at him right now. So now I can look at Mark. It's just frustrating. I don't really want to get into the costs and all that we spent on this. I just feel like there are parts of it where I still feel it's maybe off. I don't want to get into it because it's not worth it to create more drama about certain spots where they have like the commercial and different areas where it doesn't even align with the roads, the main roads at times. So Mark, I was just saying my overall concern is this: if I did a find and replace Saratoga Springs with any other city, I just don't feel like this really is Saratoga Springs. I feel this is generic. There's some sections in here where we have pictures of people putting Post-it notes and we have a couple comments, but especially the early parts of it, it just feels very generic. And in fact, they reference that the city's 20 years old. We're 25 years old. We spent money on a lot of trying to make 25 years a big deal, and our general plan update says 20 years. So that's the kind of thing. I just feel like it feels like this could be any other cities.
Mayor Pro Tem and Council, thank you for that feedback. If there's ways that we can improve it, we're happy to do it. And if you have concerns about adopting it tonight, then feel free to table it, and we'll set up appointments with you and try and work on your concerns.
So honestly, we've spent the money, we've got this, we have to meet it, but honestly, this next time around, I would rather identify 2 or 3 staff people who could do the effort and update the content to the key areas that are specific to a general plan update, and we can save a lot of money in the future. So that's just where I'm at, and it's nothing against you personally. I just very frustrated with just the. And in past general updates, when we've gotten this deck before, there were pictures that weren't Saratoga Springs. I do appreciate that I could not find a picture that wasn't Saratoga Springs unless it was specifically representing another area as an example. So I do appreciate that change. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
This isn't my official update, but I agree with Councilman McComber. The pages, the words are twisted sideways. Get Adobe Pro and flip them in the final document. That's like printing something out and scan it in sideways. Doesn't make sense. Adobe Pro can flip all those. I don't want that on our website like that. Councilman Porter.
It's been a long process. Councilman Carnan and myself have been involved in this. And I appreciate your efforts. No, I don't feel like you're going after me. So, I do know that, I wanted to thank the residents that served on the steering committee, for their participation in this and their feedback. I think it was very valuable. I think that I haven't been involved necessarily at the same level with previous general plan amendments or updates, but I think that we had an especially spirited group that definitely had opinions and were willing to share them, and so I think that was a benefit from this process, whether or not that whether or not that comes through. I do want to thank the citizens that took time out to be part of that project, and so that was just something as part of this whole process that I want to make sure they were recognized.
Hey, Mark or Owen, is that something we could, I know we've done that for other committees, temporary committees, brought them in, recognized them, said thank you. We did that for the strategic plan. I think that would be something good because they put a lot of time in it. We don't need to bring the planning commissioners or have these two guys stand up in front, but I'm talking about the citizen volunteers that aren't appointed or elected.
Certainly, happy to do it.
Are you, I'm the only one, are you guys?
No, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
What do they think of this?
I don't know that they saw the final document.
Which
At least not in an official capacity, other than residents just looking at it. I don't know that it was ever.
They weren't presented to it before.
We didn't have a final steering committee. I mean, they've seen
pieces
probably
of it.
95% of this, yeah, in one form.
I would be shocked if they liked the picture of the industrial zone as an example of what our waterfront would look like. On page 31, it's like literally an industrial zone. That's as an example of what our mixed waterfront would look like.
Yeah.
It looks like this is like just copied and pasted from multiple reports.
My one comment, I already made it about flipping the page sideways, but if we do reference 20 years in there, we certainly need to get that updated. I think that's just a correction maybe staff could make. And, I would be okay, if we approve this tonight, to make sure we do a good scrub to make sure there's not other non-factual information and make corrections there in that. And then if there's pictures that need to be replaced, just taking care of those, make those administrative. Is the council?
That's fine.
That's fine.
I just think that time needs to be spent. I didn't catch the 20 years.
It was
That's,
on page 5, right at the very beginning.
I only made it to page 30. No.
First sentence on page 5, introduction and overview. In the last 20 years, Saratoga Springs has grown.
Yeah.
Oh.
Must be freezing.
Any other comments from staff or council?
Thank you for your feedback. We apologize for the errors that we should have caught because quite frankly, sometimes you read through things and you get a little snowblind. So we apologize for the lack of attention that we should have been paying closer attention to. So thank you for your feedback and we're happy to make the corrections.
Thank you. Well, we'll open it up for a motion.
I move that we adopt business item 4, general plan update, city initiated citywide ordinance 26 dated 9/6/22, giving staff the leeway to make any changes discussed in the meeting tonight, including reorienting pictures, corrections in text. Give staff the leeway to make those corrections.
Second.
Could we add updating some of the pictures?
If needed, so made.
Seconded.
Any other discussion?
I just want on the record that before we do another general plan, I would like to consider doing it in-house next time.
Councilman Podeska.
Aye.
Wilden, aye. McComber.
Aye.
Porter.
Aye.
Karn.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I almost said McCain. That's why I had to pause. Yeah. We'll move to business item 5, Code Amendment Title 19, as stated on the agenda, Resolution R 22-57, dated today.
Councilman, we have coming before you a request that in a discussion we had previously with City Council about how we would have our process layout for amending the map. So basically what we're putting in here is the requirement for public hearing and noticing, and then the establishment of a fee. And we did look at the general effort that goes into or would generally go into this type of an application. So we came up with a fee amount of $250, and that was for any neighborhood that has 20 or less lots, and then $10 for each additional lot if it's a larger plat. So that would be how this map that is currently constituted could be amended, and we recommend your approval. Any questions?
I would think the fee, $250 for even a small HOA, or not HOA, but subdivision is reasonable given how much rent is these days. Councilman Podeska?
Yeah, just, quick question on the $10 per lot afterwards. What's, I'm thinking like, I already know like Villages the Villages HOA is already granted, but let's use them for an example. If they came in after the fact to pay that fee, what is the $10 times 400 or whatever number of units? What would that kind of, I guess, what's the cost to increase for number of lots?
Well, so we're looking at, normally what comes in is or what we're asking for is a platted neighborhood. And we may be looking at these developments that have 400 plus lots in total, but if they're coming in as a large group, in other words, several platted neighborhoods, so you got Plat A, Plat whatever, then yeah, the fee would go up, but then that could be spread out among a lot of people. But normally what we're looking at is a plat which would include maybe 30 lots or 20 lots or whatever. That's normally to achieve a 66% approval among many plats may be more challenging. So I would assume that most applications would be for smaller platted areas.
But as far as for staff though, is there any additional work beyond if it's 30 lots or if it's beyond?
There's additional review that we would want to look at as far as the infrastructure, width of roads, those type of things. So we're looking at not just one street, but several streets.
Okay, thank you.
That's what my question was going to be.
Yeah, I mean, that, if it's a very large project in the Villages, eventually is going to be, I don't know how many
It'd be very
thousands.
expensive, yeah.
That would be a lot of money.
So my question is it, because this isn't very clear in the documentation, it just says lots over 20, $10. So to me, when I read that, it was just $10 for 25, 30, 40. Is it $10 per lot?
It's 250 plus any lots over 20.
So
$10 per lot.
but that's not clear. This just says lots over 20, $10. So
$260 if you're more than 20.
So 300 is, to me, I read this 300, it's 300 lots is still just an additional $10. I mean, it doesn't read that it's $10 per lot over 20.
Are you looking at the resolution?
I'm looking at your staff report, notice and fees. You have the 250 and then you have proposed fees. Neighborhoods up to 20 lots, 250. Lots over 20, $10.
So this may not have all the wording that would be necessary, but if we refer to the resolution and the wording that, I think that's where it's a little more specific.
It's not. And then I would be in favor of a maximum because it could be like $2,000 for like a big, like a wander coming in or something.
Yeah, the resolution just refers to the fee schedule, and that's what's.
And I'm referring to the fee
looking at is
schedule.
the fee schedule.
It just needs to say lots over or lots 21 plus $10 / each.
What would be appropriate maximum?
The resolution does say per lot.
Where does that?
It's page 4
Of the resolution, which is B5B.
Oh, okay.
Page 4, it's highlighted. It says per lot over 20 lots.
So, but the fee schedule doesn't, okay.
Yeah, so that's going to be the fee schedule.
So it just, I'm still not seeing it. Maybe I'm not in the right place.
Yeah, so it's the attachment that's B5C.
Oh, B5C. Got it.
Oh, the highlighted yellow part. So,
Over 20 lots, yeah.
Well, here it is.
Stephen?
Any fee is supposed to be a reasonable estimate of the actual cost of providing the services. Now, the reasonableness standard under the law is a very discretionary standard. It's the most discretionary standard out there, which is why fees generally aren't challenged. If there's been some sort of study and we've looked at it, as far as very, very large projects, I don't think that there's a strong correlation between the number of lots and a fee that high. So I think that it would be appropriate to specify a cap in those situations where you have a very large project. It could get very expensive.
But I think the fee in this case is intended to cover postage, staff time to mail documents.
Is that really $10 per?
Well, again, this doesn't say if it
We do
takes
it for
5
50
envelopes,
cents.
whether it takes 1 envelope.
Well, it does, because it's per house. So we're charging $10 for a 50-cent stamp and printing costs.
And staff review.
Yeah, and again, we don't know. If you're not comfortable with it, feel free to cap it. We are happy with whatever solution you feel is best for this particular item.
well, and I appreciate pointing it out on one of the things that that has the Exhibit A, but in like 3 other places, it doesn't specifically say per lot. And so one of my problems is that consistency, developers, individuals, they say, oh, you're hiding a fee here, you're putting it, it's not clear here. So we just need to be very consistent. That's just what I was making the argument, is that it needs to be per lot. And I would say, I would feel comfortable keeping it at no more than like 500. But that's just me. I just feel like the staff effort on the neighborhood, it goes down
The bigger it is.
the bigger it is, because per household, you're looking at this as a whole. And so that's just where I'm at, Mayor Pro Temp. I cede my time back to you.
Councilman Porter?
I hate being in discussions where we're just throwing out random numbers without any data, to know what. Yeah. Right. Is 500 the right number? Is 1,000 the right number? What's
Could
the
we
right,
say
I don't
something?
know.
May I, Councilman?
Yeah.
Could we say something like a maximum of 500 or the maximum, no more than the greater of $500 or the actual cost of printing?
I'd be okay with that.
Printing and mailing.
Yeah, printing and mailing and postage. Because I agree with what you're saying, Mark, staff time, but
At some point, that becomes pennies, right?
yeah,
If
it
you're
reduces.
doing 1,000 homes. The extra home isn't adding all that much staff time to.
Adding $1.10.
Just keep in mind, if whatever change you make here would be then subject to challenge. Someone could challenge it saying, no, I want staff to put together their exact computation of time. And the law
That's what I'm
doesn't,
saying. It's just the printing cost, $500 or the printing cost, whichever is greater.
Printing and mailing.
okay.
Yeah.
Whichever is greater.
So you're just
Is that-
talking strictly printing costs, not staff time.
If it's above $500.
Oh, if it's above 500, okay.
Yeah.
We're saying if it's 3,000
Makes sense.
homes and it costs $1,200 to mail all that, then you're still gonna pay $1,200.
You can
Okay,
choose
I
the
missed that.
greater of either $500 or the actual cost of printing and
Well, they
mailing.
can't choose. We're choosing that it's going to be the
Well, right.
I like,
I'm
yeah,
gonna choose the lower.
I'm sorry, I totally misunderstood.
I'm comfortable with that.
And Stevenson. Good.
Any more discussion? Do we have a motion?
I'll try this one, I guess.
Sorry. There.
I move that we approve item 5. We're revisiting this again. Code Amendment Title 19, 1904-20, internal accessory dwelling unit noticing and fees, ordinance 2237 dated today, with one other, making sure that there's consistent language throughout all of the documentation saying it's $10 per lot over 20, with a maximum of $500 or the total cost of printing and mailing,
Whichever is greater.
whichever is greater.
I'll second.
Clarification, does that include staff time?
No, not
No.
above 500.
Yeah, if it's that big, we're just gonna have to eat it, I guess.
And can you approve the resolution? Is there an ordinance and a resolution? too?
And Resolution R 22-57 dated today as well.
Amended, second.
There aren't any.
There weren't any. I didn't
Were
see
there
any.
any? in
I
your
didn't
staff
see any.
report? No.
Well, just those that are listed here, those are standard findings.
You want to just amend it anyway?
With any that I didn't read, other staff findings and conditions.
Amended, third time. Any more discussion?
Just want to say that I get mocked when there's 3 amendments.
You're,
And so my only question is that if we find this doesn't work, we can always bring it back.
Yeah.
okay, I'll start with me this time. Wilden? Aye. Porter?
Aye.
Karn?
Aye.
McComber?
Aye.
Podeska?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
He was.
Wilden.
Me. I needed a motion to
And I
pass
found the
tonight.
findings. So I found it.
We've been asked to table business item 6. Do
I
we need a?
move
oh, go
to
ahead.
table business item 6 to a future date.
Second.
Is there, all in favor? Aye. Motion passes unanimously. We
move
do
to-
have, shh, let me do my duty. We do have need for closed session. Do we have a motion?
I move to go close after a 5-minute recess.
You got a second. So, McComber first, Karn second. All in favor?